Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to Reverend Moses' Summer Shorts. A little time away, a little reflection during the time of July when I'm not going to be in church, and our digital services are not going to be as put online as they could be. But I decided that I'd have a short reflection each week so that we could at least look at the scriptures and have a little thought about it. And this week, despite the fact that we have a lot to unpack with our New Testament readings, I wanted to focus on our Old Testament. Our Old Testament is again from 2 Samuel, and it's the point in the scripture where David is ascending to the throne. And it's the point where David is not only just taking the crown, it's not some ceremony like you saw in, well, for our younger audience or younger members who are watching this video, it's not like Frozen, where Elsa gets the crown and holds an orb in one hand, a staff in the other, and there's a few words said, and then all of a sudden she's queen. Or even any of the ceremonies some of our older members may have saw when Victoria or Elizabeth or anybody took the crown, when you've watched them in history class or whether you saw them yourself. It's the idea that basically we are looking at David celebrating God's presence amongst his people. Not just taking the crown, but celebrating the very virtues of God paraded through the streets. The Ark of the Covenant is brought through the streets, and David, the musically gifted little guy that he is, doesn't just celebrate the fact that he has brought the two kingdoms together of Judah and of Israel, and they are under one king, but more to the point, he is celebrating the fact that God is making all this happen. He is dancing, there are tambourines, there are horns, there are cymbals, there are all these wonderful things happening, and he is just out there proclaiming by dance, by song, by music, the presence of God in this very act, in this very moment. Now, summertime, for a lot of us, we find ourselves away. We find ourselves in many places. We find ourselves out and about. But even so, we take a moment to rest. We take a moment to celebrate. The question I have for you with our scripture reading this week: how do you celebrate God? How do you celebrate the presence of God in your life? Now, some immediately would say, well, I go to church, I read the Bible, I pray. Sure, those are excellent ways. Some of the first that you should look into, as a matter of fact. But what else? Because it's not just in the big ways. It's not just in the Eucharist. It's not just in our sacred sacraments that we use them for. It's not just morning prayers, not just evening prayers, not just the reading of the scriptures. It's not just the traditions that we hold. The celebration of God is found in the big and the small. Every morning we get up and put our feet to the floor. We should be able to thank God that we're there. Every morning that we get up and we celebrate the family that surrounds us, or the life that we lead, or the ability to do whatever we can, or the things that surround us, even in just the world that we have. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty to also criticize and be concerned about. But the very moments that we have in this world are worth celebrating. The very moments that God gives us, the very gifts that God gives us to use, are all for us to celebrate. To be able to use our daily words, our daily music, our daily moments, our actions, our deeds. What better way to celebrate God in the world than to make God present to those who need him most? To say hello to that lonely person on the street corner. To give to that needy person who is down to their last buck and might need a little bit of cheering or assistance. To work or assist at the food bank, to give a donation to some cause. To celebrate what we have that God has given us, and to give back as God has done. To recognize, even in just living the commandments that he has given us, whether they be on those 2 stone tablets that were in David's ark, or whether they be the simplest of commands that Jesus himself took and just contracted into 2. To love God, to celebrate him in all that is around us, in the barbecues we have in the evening, the grace we say around the table with our children and grandchildren, the presence that we have even with our neighbors and friends. To have a drink, sociable with some folks, and to give thanks that we're able to do so. A phone call to somebody who misses us. There are so many ways that we can celebrate God in the world. And what I'd like you to do, whether you're away for the summer, whether you're celebrating at church, continue to celebrate His presence, to give thanks for all that God does, to dance as David has, to sing as David did. Even as that gentleman in the background might be doing. In all things, give thanks to God. Keep that in mind as we celebrate during the summer, as we continue to support our churches, our worship, and to do all that we can to bring Christ and His Father, the Creator, out into the world. In all that we do, celebrate God, just as David did. God bless everyone, and continue to have a wonderful and safe summer.